'Cause I know where all this goes to my real deep space 11. I'm flapping to the trill in the mirror. I'm staring at this gorgeous spot.
Hold on.
No species could be any harder. If you wanna make the galaxy a better place.
Okay, there we go. Hi. Welcome to Foundry Files, episode 27. This is the show where we're better.
At what?
Everything. Yeah, so Star Trek Into Darkness came out this week, and we saw it. That's basically all the Star Trek news that everybody's talking about.
I saw it last week.
You saw it last week, because you British people got it early. I'm going to make a complaint. Star Trek is like, why didn't it come out here first? I'm pretty sure it was made over here. I mean, I understand, and this is the only reason I'm going to say this, is Doctor Who comes out over in Britain first because they make it. And that makes sense to me. They deserve to see it first. It's their show. And then the other places get it a few hours later. Why the hell didn't that happen with this movie? Because I had to, sit here and listen to all the Europeans talk about it. Like, oh, it was so awesome. I'm like, I got to wait till stinking this week to watch. But yeah, that's basically, there's not any Foundry news except for Spotlight, which we will get to in a second. But hey, we want to talk about Star Trek Into Darkness because we both liked it. I actually thought it's better than the first movie.
I thought it was really, really well done, actually. The
thing I liked is it felt more Star Trek to me than the last one. I think it's just because of the story. JJ in the first one bridged the gap between the Trekkies and new fans. He's done it again this time. And I think it's more well done this time, actually. Much more well inputted in this. And obviously, not we're going to say anything about what the movie's about. We're just going to say it's awesome. Go watch it. Yeah, really, seriously, really go watch it. I mean, I was really skeptical about this. And about halfway through the movie, there's like a reveal that I groaned at. I was just like, oh, no. But you know what? Good movie still overall, and I enjoyed it. So there's cool shots from the movie with the Enterprise in it, and I love they did a new warp effect. That was really cool to see, because I think in the first one it just flashed out, but now it's got these cool streaks and stuff like that. Cool stuff like that, cool battles, so definitely give it a watch. It was really nice to see.
I didn't spot as many lens flares.
I didn't either. I didn't notice them. Or shaky cam.
I'm going to touch on the last bit of Into Darkness before we move on to the Foundry stuff. I didn't spot as many lens flares in this film, so you won't get blinded like you did the first one.
Yeah. And I love some of the new people they brought on, like Mickey from Doctor Who. Booyah. I loved seeing him when he came on screen. I was like, hey, Mickey, what's up, man? What are you doing in Star Trek? This isn't the reality you were sent to.
Anyway,
so what's our spotlight this week? What do we got?
The Sword of the Kurag Mar, a Federation mission by K.R. Walcott. Any level requirement, so you can just be level 1 to do this. The regular system is under attack by Klingon forces, as described in the actual cryptic mission. And our relief shipment to the Hiromu sector is in jeopardy. Starfleet is mobilizing to drive the Klingons back. You will assist the convoy escorts and protect the relief freighters. So this ties. I'm thinking this ties directly into the cryptic mission. So I'm interested to see what kind of aspect they'll have in this.
Pretty cool. That's basically all that's been going on in Foundry Land this week. Because Tuesday, when this comes out, I think I'm getting out earlier though. But anyway, Tuesday, is Romulan stuff, and we're pumped for it. I want to play my Romulan. I think I've tweeted out several times so far, just basic tweets that are like, I want to play my Romulan now, because I really do. That's about it. That's all I want right now.
By the time this episode is released, it should theoretically be already out, so...
Unless the servers break.
If you're listening / watching to it right now, it should be done.
Yeah. If anything, it's going to be the servers are broken or down. That's going to be the problem. And you know what?
Yeah, I'll probably wait maybe a day or two before I officially start, because the server is going to be unbearable in the first day.
Let's make a prediction. What do we think the server conditions are going to be Tuesday comes out? I think they're going to go down. I think they're going to go down completely. I think they're going to go down completely for a couple of hours, and when they come back up for the next couple of days, they will be laggy.
It won't be that bad. It'll definitely be laggy, and there definitely will be a queue, I'd say, because that's what happens.
Oh yeah, for sure. Every season has a queue.
But, yeah, I'd say it'll be pretty bad in the first day, I think.
Yeah, and then people will get pissed and leave, and then I'll be like, I'm still here.
Not forgetting the amount of Romulan characters you'll see on the opening cinematics and tutorials. There's just gonna be like millions and millions of Romulans around you. It's like
Sinatras and Hakivs or whatnot. You know what, Cryptic? Make sure you get some names out of there that people can't make, so we don't see all that stuff. I'm just saying, you do it on the Feds and Clan side. Make sure the Romulans get that, because you're just opening a can of worms you don't want to let out. So, anyway, let's move into our review. This week's another Tholian mission, the Tangled Webs We Weave.
And on to our mission review, the Tangled Webs We Weave. Not we weave. Weave. Anyway, it's a Tholian mission this week, essentially. With 123 players, as of this recording, of course.
Very nice.
An average star rating of 4.24, and was second place in the Tholian challenge. So, this will be good, I'd say.
I was excited to play another Tholian mission, because the first one we did was really good, and you know what? This one was pretty good, too. Why don't I tell you a little bit about story, because a lot of people like the story in these things. So, the Tholians have launched a surprise attack against Starbase 24. Man, that starbase never gets a break.
No, it doesn't.
Never. Travel to this starbase and rescue from the Tholians before they can execute a plan already in motion. So they're up to something there, but what? So you gotta go figure out in this one. The plot for the mission is good. Story lovers will get a pretty good story. It's not like the most advanced plot out there, but it's still pretty good and decent. You're still gonna have a couple twists in there.
It's logical. It's logical and progressive. Yeah.
Yep. So it's still something that if you're going in to play a mission for story like I am, you're still gonna enjoy it. It'll still be something.
I have to say, I don't want to mention the exact circumstances, but there was a bit in the mission that just teased the heck out of me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just.
Yep. If you've been watching, you know what Weewee's been looking for, and that happened in this one, so...
It just wasn't bad.
The characters are alright. There's nothing memorable about them, really. I think they scored a 6 for us on our score sheets, which it puts it into... the one above it's detailed.
Borderline functional...
There's effort put into them, but it's not something you're going to remember.
Yeah, they didn't pop up often enough, I'd say, for them to be memorable. I mean, you've got a captain of a ship, and you've got the admiral you talk to initially as well, and that's really about it. I mean,
it's not really character driven to begin with.
But even the two main ones you interact with, you don't interact with enough to really make them like this is a recurring character and all that kind of stuff. It's only a few times you do it.
Yeah, so they're not going to be super memorable in this mission. So the dialogue though is very well written in this one. There's a bit more than your average mission dialogue wise. I mean, you're not reading box after box after box all the time. At some points it might feel like that. I didn't really get that feeling playing through this, and I think part of that is because it is really well written. So it's not just
really well. Yeah.
It actually felt like writing you'd see in Star Trek when they're on the bridge doing stuff and everybody's giving their reports and suggestions and stuff. Several times it felt like it was mirrored from that, which I don't feel like I get that feeling enough in most missions. So I was happy to get that feeling in this one for it. There's some basic touchstoning in this mission on Tholians, their abilities, and some other categories. I don't want to get too into because it's going to spoil some of the story. But there's some touchstoning there, but it's nothing that's going to be like continuing from other plots in the game and stuff. It's just pulling from basic canon.
The only references will be Starbase 24, which is already under siege by the Klingons, and the Thorians are going there to muck things up more than they already are.
Yep.
So
there's no grammar and spelling errors in this mission. Story scored an 8.29, our 24th ranked in the story category. So it is a good mission in that area.
Can I just address that? I looked at that score when I was putting it down the ranking table, and 8.29 is 24th. That's an 8.29.
That's still pretty
over
good.
8, but it's in 24th place. That just shows you how many missions we reviewed with such a high score in the story.
I think partially that's because we do look for missions with good story. I think that's like the primary one. We should probably go play a mission where they didn't make a good story. So if you have a terrible mission out there with a terrible story... Oh, I shouldn't word it like that. Anyway, let's move on to technical. So in technical, there's some limited customization of familiar maps from the game, like Starbase 24. There's not really any customization into that. They might put like an anomaly off somewhere.
Yeah. There's a good reason for that. It's because it's the place where it's based off. So that kind of thing, I've seen it before in missions. A mission which takes place in an actual sector it's based off, in this case Starbase 24, doesn't tend to have much more customization unless it's relevant to the story. So this is another occasion of that. So I think there was maybe only one or two like pieces of debris just to add to the collection, and even that I don't think was added. It was just the dialogue and the gameplay bits.
I normally wouldn't make a big deal out of it, because if you're doing missions that already have the maps in them and you need them to fit your story, you really don't then need to make new maps. But the only places in this mission I could see where you might want new maps is interiors. You do beam over to a few interiors during this mission, and the only thing done is they're pre-made interiors with debris added to them from the battle. And maybe it'd be really hard, depending on what race you're using, to represent the interior. Because, again, if you use a race like Undine, you're not going to have a lot of art asset pieces. So,
no. There was a good reason for that. I mean, one of the places you go to in the interior is exactly where it's supposed to be. It's exactly
the bridge. Yep.
Yeah. So that kind of thing. The rest of the ship I thought was fairly well done. There was quite a few bits added. But the one corridor you go down was fantastic, I have to say. Mm-hmm. There is so much debris and
like
so much
gas and stuff.
It was actually incredible.
I looked at that and I was like, oh, this is... Because he does say you can bring an EV suit if you want for the mission, because you might want it in that part. And I go, oh, that's where, because you wouldn't want to go through that gas. It's not going to do anything to you, but I like playing, so it fits with the story. So I'd be like, I don't want to equip my EV suit. I'm just going to go around. So, the transitions were alright. I didn't have any issues with them. Did you have any, Wee Wee?
Well, I thought a few times where it just seemed to skip just a map entirely. I mean, the very first map you go into is a space map. You go over to rendezvous with the fleet, and then you get down after 2 dialogue boxes. It's like, what's the point of the map then? Why don't you just go straight to the ground map? And then just put a little out-of-character dialogue saying that you have rendezvous with the fleet and you join them and blah, 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 blah. Another one with a bridge. I mean, you do a bit of dialogue with a couple of the characters there, and then you go into the next bit. It's like that's a couple of occasions, for example, where it's not very good. The map's like, what's the point? But there are occasions where it's great big gigantically long corridor with debris everywhere, where it's actually really really long. Yeah, it's a lot there. So
that's probably what balanced it out for me.
Inconsistent, but yeah.
The author shows great knowledge then of the Foundry toolset, especially in creating alternate paths, which we will talk about in gameplay, because there's a lot here in this mission. So there's stuff like that, lots of optional dialogue stuff to interact with, triggers, all this stuff that's really cool to see. Some limited art asset usage in this one, mainly like we've said, adding debris to things to spice up already familiar maps, but that's basically it, so nothing really special there. And then that kind of goes into creativity. A lot of creativity comes from map building. Now, in this mission, it's not from map building, but more from his ability to create all these different branches to go down and stuff like that, because that was really cool to see, and that's a lot of technical work to get that done.
I'd have to say the tease that was brought on me was unexpected. I have to say it was just
Great instructions in this mission. They were really well done. I think this might be the best mission we've seen instructions for. So you're the instruction guy, Wee Wee. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, this will bleed on to replayability a bit, but there are multiple occasions where different paths are actually selected you can have, and if you have a group, it gives you the option saying like this is the end point of the dialogue. If you're in a group, wait for the other people to tell them to say they're done before you move into the next mission. That's a fantastic feature to have, because it shows that the author's thinking about group play in his mission. And there's even options there to show there is group play, which again leads on to replayability. But I have to say, some of the, not only that, but some of the options and the recommendations and all the dialogue he puts in, it's actually excellent. It really does feel like a user manual saying this bit I recommend this, and then you go and do it, or you go and not do it, that kind of thing. So really, really well done on that side of things.
Yeah, players shouldn't get lost. I think you gave it a 10 in the instructions. I gave it. I wanted to give it a 10. I was about to put it at 10, but I had to drop it to a 9 because the author does not say where to start the mission in the tab where a lot of authors tend to. Well. That was it, though. I mean, he does clearly tell you in the dialogue and in the where you go to pick up the mission.
Some people
that major part, So like if I logged out and logged back in, it'd be a little more difficult to find it. That's all you have to improve, and the instructions are perfect for this mission. And then the only Foundry limitations in this one is the workarounds used to create these multiple branching dialogue stuff. Because go ahead.
I just want to touch on one Foundry limitation I noticed. In the battle with the Tholians, you've got a ship, and a whole bunch of ships, as a matter of fact. One of the lead ships you went on to earlier on. And because of the limitations of Foundry, that ship can explode, whether you want it or not. And the author has put in the dialogue saying like, this ship has photonic decoy technology, which also actually links in touchstoning with the photonic displacement console you have from the Nova refit. So actually, he's not only worked around it, but he's actually touched on a bit of the game, which I don't think many people have realized.
I didn't realize that one. That's pretty cool. But yeah,
it's a pretty way to do it, I have to say.
Yeah, so that's the major thing for Foundry limitations is in order to pull off a lot of these branching objectives and stuff like that, he basically does have to go back and say, okay, if you made this choice previously in the mission, say yes or no. You're going to do a lot of that, and it does. From the technical side, since we're both Foundry authors, it's obvious that for us, when we look at that, it's like, okay, since you can't do that in the Foundry, this is his workaround for that. But if you're not a Foundry author, you shouldn't really have an issue with it. I mean, you're going to do plenty of that towards the end of the mission, saying, did you make this choice here or this choice here? And based on what you select, we'll continue the mission on from there.
Yeah, that's limited too. That's limited to Foundry as well. You can't actually branch out objectives as well.
Yep.
Really well done.
Technical scored a perfect 7 there, or 26 ranked in technical. So this is really good. There's some stuff that could be improved in the technical area, but overall, I think it's working fine right now. So there shouldn't be any major issues that players run into. All right, Game Master Wee Wee, what do we got to say about the gameplay? Is this mission gonna be fun?
Well, space gameplay was fairly weak, so on that side of things, so you probably wouldn't enjoy that side of things. That's primarily due to limited space gameplay overall. Firstly, the pointers map, you don't need it. Secondly, the combat itself, which I'll get into in a little bit, is basically the only map you have. I mean, the rest of it's ground after that bit, so it didn't really help on the score of that side of things. There's not much beyond the usual stuff, such as interactions with reach markers. So, again, space gameplay. But the combat, I thought, was actually pretty interesting. It's another one of those large fleet battles, but this time it's against the Tholians. I think we saw it last week as well, a couple of weeks ago. And it's a good battle as well. These battles scale up with a lot more players present. As we described earlier, the mission has really been thought of with group play in mind as well. And we've seen that before in missions as well, and it's usually a good thing. Not all war anyone.
Yeah, that's a fun one to play in a huge group.
Yeah, this is another occasion where it groups players in mind, and it really scales up very well. I mean, I didn't play it in a group, but I can really see there was enough groups there to really make it feel epic, because there was enough allies with me to help me as well. So
we should get a group together just to try that out to see how it is, because I did like it that even in the dialogue it says, are you playing in a group, and that will change some dialogue around based on if you're in a group or not. So that it's a lot of thought put into is a player playing solo or in a group, which you don't really see a lot of Foundry missions out there. Just assume you're playing solo, because that's usually the case. But
one other thing, just after just in the space bit. Again, we're not going to talk about that bit, but one of the mobs you have to face later on is reskinned as a Klingon ship, and if you see the ship and you understand it, you will know why.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Very good reason why it is reskinned as a Klingon ship. So don't bother docking for that part. Just saying.
Yep.
But ground gameplay, on the other hand, was pretty engaging. I'd actually say that.
That was the highlight of the gameplay there.
A lot of optional dialogue for NPCs allows a choice for the captain during the mission. Not many optional interactions, if any, if I solve them, but with no puzzle, the amount of optional dialogue that can be spoken by some of the NPCs can easily make up for the lack of the others. We've seen it before in Revo's Nightmare series.
Yep.
This is optional dialogue. There are so many different elements. You beam down to an ally bridge, and there was like must have been about a dozen NPCs you could talk to.
Yeah, it reminded me of City of Paul Marie, where you could go around there and talk to all the different people.
There, you could talk to at some point. The only people you couldn't talk to were ensigns actually breached by some of the people. The main people you could talk to, and this is like, that's fantastic. You can talk to everyone there and help them out.
Yeah, like there's one I talked to. It's like a science NPC where it's like it said in the dialogue box, like, you know how in the featured episode series they've got like the psi objectives, the TAC objectives. If you're that class, you should click on it. Now you can still click on it just because of Foundry limitations there. But I didn't click on it and help out the science person because I was playing on attack. But I did talk to the little Ferengi guy who got a little pissy, I should say, over you bugging him. I reported him at the end of the mission just to feel good about myself. So
I just didn't care because it was like a Ferengi. Oh well, that's not my problem, is it?
I was like, you know what, I'm reporting you. I don't need any lip from you, Ensign. So
I like the Tellarite. I have to say.
I didn't talk to the Tellarite one. I'll have to go and talk to him.
It was really argumentative, as Tellarites are.
Yep.
So yeah. There is a bit of ground combat as well. It was interesting. Generally mediocre. A couple of instances with multi-stack roofs and a few instances of optional combat make this part of the mission fairly interesting overall. They're not really that special, but there's not really anything bad on this side of things. So I'd say pretty average, I'd say.
Yeah, I got from the combat the feel just both space and ground was kind of average. It felt like your average cryptic mission, like one of the early ones where you had to go kill a bunch of mobs. Yeah, if you bump a Tholian fire enough, you'll aggro the next swap because they're so close and that kind of thing. So that kind of thing you have to look out for as well. But probably one of the highlights of the mission, if not the highlight, is replayability. It is so well integrated. There is an alternate ending present, and I think you described it earlier as well. It's kind of limited as well, and involves a lot of decision making throughout the mission. Remember what you did. Yeah, you got to really remember. You're going to need it for the end dialogue. The Admiral's going to ask you, what did you do during the mission? You're going to need to remember what you did during that mission in order to fulfill that proper end of it. Yep, and then it will give you your ending that would have happened based on your choices. Depending on what you do, you're going to have a different ending for the mission through the dialogue, and so that's really cool to see. The sheer amount of options from the dialogue and interactions is incredible. Well worth replaying, ranging from the skill integration, which was actually really new. I've never seen that before. Mm-hmm. It's like in optional dialogue, this person is giving you an option. It's like, if you know this skill in your actual skill tree, you can do this option. But because I didn't have the subspace decompiler to help one of the scientists out, I chose it because I don't have that skill with me. Nope. So it ranges from that profession to ranked species even. So it's easily replayable with the group as well, as there are group options, as we mentioned earlier. Yeah. So pretty much everything you can think of in replayability and more is present here. I seriously recommend this for replaying because you're going to replay it like 3 or 4 times and they're all going to be different with some options left. Yep. So there we go. Overall gameplay score is 7.79, which put it in 10th place. So it's pretty good. Yeah. So, summary, what do we think, Wee? Overall, a great story and a gameplay-driven mission with some great elements concerning the Tholians and a few certain things that we can't say. Whilst being lower on the technical side of things, this mission is great for those who enjoy choices and replayability, I'd say, overall. Yeah, and this is a first author mission too. A lot of them are pretty basic, we see, but overall this one scored a 7.69, our 17th ranked, so that's really good for a first author mission. There's a lot of categories here that, like user help, replayability, that are scoring perfect. Like there's nothing you need to do to improve there, which is really good for first time author missions. There's a few areas like the combat that could be improved and stuff like that, but This is a really good mission. It's definitely worth checking out, and I can see why I got second place in that Foundry contest. I didn't check to see what the other Tholian missions scored. I'd be curious to see how far apart they were on our scoring system. We'll have to check that out after the show. All right, so that's our review for the week. We are off next week for Legacy of Romulus, which is coming out. Boo, yeah, let's go play our Romulans and stuff. So there will not be an episode that week. If the Foundry is down longer, we might take a few more weeks off just because we won't be able to play any new missions, and that's really what this show's about, is playing your guys' missions and reviewing them. If you guys want us to check out your mission, it is possible that it will make it onto a show segment. Email us, foundryfiles@gmail.com, and you might see your show on a future segment.
And don't forget my contest. Alliance of Mirror Universe.
Yep. Also on the go, if you want to listen to us while you're traveling somewhere, or if you just want to ignore people, like at a meeting or something, and you're like, hey, I'll listen to the Foundry Files guys. You can download us. We're on iTunes. You can search Foundry Files or Stoked Radio. We're going to be under Stoked Radio there, so they'll be mixed in there. So you can also listen to all the other Star Trek news that people don't care about, like PvP. So there you go. I think that's it. So we will catch you guys, hopefully, in 2 weeks. Salute. Can I do double salute? Does that work? Yeah, it works. Double salute.
All hail, Sir Ooey Ooey, Oi Oi Wee Wee of Pinkle, the King of Crash, spreader of the Foundry virus, whiner of the sacred channel of TeamSpeak, heir to the indigestion-inducing onion rings of Burger King, Master Fluffer to the Cation High Chieftain.